I'm doing a little rebrand. I'll be changing my name to Chrome Rot soon. Please don't unsubscribe when I pop up on your feed. Thank you. These images by artist Rahid Lotf are pure nostalgia visualized. A sensory overload of probably every single thing you used to enjoy as a kid if you were a nerd growing up in the 90s and early 2000s. First thought that comes to mind for me is, games used to be so much simpler. The age-old question in gaming, as in pretty much anything else that evokes nostalgia, is, was it really that thing that was simpler, in this case games, or was it your life and the ability to enjoy yourself with no worries, little responsibility, and unlimited time to immerse yourself completely in these games? Morrowind was mechanically more complex than Oblivion, which was mechanically more complex than Skyrim. I remember launching some obscure spaceship simulator game that my dad had on his Mac as a kid and being completely overwhelmed by the amount of stuff there was to keep track of. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines gives you more freedom of choice than any RPG in the past 10 years. So in a sense, complexity is not really related to progress in game development. But still, if you ask me if I think games used to be simpler, my answer is fucking yeah they did, obviously. But they didn't get more complex, they got more complicated, which is an important distinction to make. Live service games where you miss one season and now your favorite character is obsolete and gets you bullied in the lobby, the controls are inverted for some reason, and you're getting trampled by 13-year-olds in a game you used to think you were kind of good at. In-game stores, microtransactions, loot boxes, consume, 15 different launchers because everyone has to have their own for some reason, shareholders now expecting millions in returns while giving the studio exactly 4 minutes to make the game, and more of a personal grudge than a systemic problem, but dumb-ass futuristic UI. Fuck Assassin's Creed for popularizing this shit. It's in every game now, it's cluttered and confusing and uninspired. Mini Ninjas is a game from 2009, and in case you haven't done the math recently, 2009 wasn't 6 years ago, it was 13. 13 years is plenty of time for industry standards to completely change to the point of being unrecognizable. The checklist of priorities when developing a game now is a totally different set of words compared to back then. You'd think that the industry, having grown to nearly 10 times the size of what it was in 2009, would be 10 times as fun and exciting today, in which case you might want to close your eyes now while I show you what an absolute behemoth of a year 2009 was. It was packed, and I mean double-cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon. I'm talking, Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, League? We just don't get that anymore. Tangent warning, but let's be honest, my videos are more tangent than actual topic. 10 legendary games in 1 year was not a behemoth year back then. It was just a good year. Look up 2008 or 2007 and it's the same thing. It pisses me off that this huge 10x industry growth represented by this big ass number, gaming, is in the least part due to games being 10 times better or there being 10 times more games made. Part of the equation is a lot more people being interested in games and games being more accessible, but the most important part is publishers finding new ways to weasel their thin little slimy corporate lips directly to our wallets and suck them dry. It sounds like a grim capitalist dystopia, and it is. This thing that started from the idea of providing people nothing but pure entertainment and an escape from the reality governed by money is just one more thing that got eaten alive by money. I just want to say, whenever I talk about how much I hate the industry, I'm talking about the industry. I absolutely know there's awesome games coming out today, despite AAA studios barely pushing any innovation, and the reason why I even make these videos is to highlight the stuff I enjoy, but also shit on bad business practices every chance I get. Come on. Just mentioning EA bad in a video will create a whole brotherhood in the comments. It's cute. Keep it up. So back to the topic part. Mini Ninjas very much flew under the radar, or more accurately, the radar became useless because there were so many dots it just turned into a glowing disc. I've literally never heard anyone talk about this game, so considering I called it my favorite for years, I'm happy to be the first. Can you guess the iconic franchise that is developed by the same studio that made this silly ninja game for 9-year-olds? Fucking Hitman, dude. It's kind of funny how IO Interactive just randomly dropped this shit one sunny 2009 afternoon and never acknowledged it since. The Wikipedia entry for it is so short, I feel like I deserve an achievement for even knowing it exists. Although there is a Mini Ninjas cartoon that dropped, I think, a few years after the game released. I don't know where it aired, but the episodes I can find on YouTube actually look pretty cool. So when everyone was talking about Breath of the Wild, I immediately remembered this game. I couldn't play Zelda because I don't own a Switch, but they don't know I already had my own Breath of the Wild experience 8 years prior. The comparison is obviously not exact, but even going back to play Mini Ninjas now, I immediately get Breath of the Wild vibes. Both games capture that childlike sense of wonder, albeit Mini Ninjas doing so on a much smaller scale, being that, well, it came out 8 years prior and the development budget was probably $3. Mini Ninjas is also not an open world game, so exploration is very limited, although areas where new spells are located are slightly hidden, being off the main path. But y'all know we don't do none of that big game, small game discrimination here. Over at the Chrome Rot Franchise Incorporated, what matters to us are just vibes. And this cute cartoony world of Mini Ninjas is a certified vibe. Okay, let's talk about the graphics. Notice how realistic graphics from 2009 make you hurl when you look at them now? You do? What is wrong with you? Why are you never happy with anything? Ever thought maybe it's you? Maybe you should just lower your standards? Jesus. I don't. Firstly, because that's a highly exaggerated reaction, and secondly, because I'm not living in 2010. At the current point in time, bad realistic graphics have kind of become a vibe of their own, but only because enough time has passed for them to become nostalgic. But most of these games from the period when actual realism was much further off than it is now, looked poo-poo the next year. I feel like every colossal hit like Minecraft or Fortnite took away the focus from realistic graphics because people just realized cartoony shit ages better, is easier to make, and is not exclusively attractive to toddlers but grown-ass men too for some reason. Mini Ninjas still looks just as good as it did 13 years ago, and not because it was that good looking back then, but because it wasn't trying to be something it was not. It's a casual game for kids and it knows it. Basic shapes, pretty much no textures, and actual color? Color is a huge part of old graphics looking outdated. Color is why Mirror's Edge is still one of the best looking games from this time. I'm pretty sure in 2009 it was illegal to sell a game that didn't look like it spent 2 months fermenting in a jar of piss unless it was made specifically to hypnotize newborns. Which is crazy to think about because color has since proven to be so engaging that pretty much every game made nowadays has to look like a Mr. Beast thumbnail if it wants even a chance at mainstream appeal. Mini Ninjas is a game with a pretty decent amount of color, which is a miracle in itself, but I just know if it was made today, it would have had the saturation cranked up tenfold, and they would have found some way to cram trending hip-hop songs in there and have the ninjas do, I don't know, the pussy bop or some shit, without even a fucking hint of effort to try to make it make sense in the lore. Because this is what the kids want! Aside from color, being as minimal as my desire to keep pushing forward, you know I wouldn't be talking about this game unless it was a vibe. I don't know, for some reason I just enjoy being in this world. There's zero consequence. I'm never in a tense situation or difficult fight. I never have to worry about losing my fucking runes when I die. Fuck you, Miyazaki. I just pretend to be the kind of ninja that I imagined as a kid whose whole identity was being obsessed with Naruto. So yeah, the game looks pretty and has this sort of lo-fi vibe, but what makes Mini Ninjas such a special game for me is not how it looks, but the variety it offers. I mentioned my Skyrim video in every video I make, but in it, I went in depth about some general concepts that I think make games amazing that Skyrim was just the best example of, and variety kind of ties into my thoughts on width versus depth. Mini Ninjas is not a very deep game, but you can transform into a chicken and shit out an egg. You can also transform into any other animal you see, and all of them have a few cute, unique animations. Editor note, I'm recording more gameplay for the video, and I just discovered for the first time that there's even a potion that turns you into a fucking koi fish. Koi fish! What? This fucking game is wild. Is this absolutely useless in the actual game? Yes, and that's amazing. I am so tired in general, but also of this utilitarian game design. For me, this often creates a sort of separation where I see the clear line I was intended to interact with from start to finish, and then everything else around it that's actually little more than an empty backdrop with a coat of paint. The transformation spell is just one of 12 unique spells you can find throughout the game. Some more useful than others, but all useful in a way that they're just fun to find and try out. Same goes for the crafting system. You don't need any of this shit in the game. It's just fun to buy or craft and then watch what it does when you use it. For example, the cherry bomb is literally a delete button for every enemy in the vicinity, so, you know, if you're embarrassingly having a hard time in this game somehow, there is no shame in using it. There's a lot of these details that are there just to add character. The way you can use your hat as an adorable little boat, then go fishing on that boat and catch fresh sushi. Every character has unique animations for everything. The big guy pushes the door with one finger. The flute girl spins her flute to move the boat. The stealth archer is just silly all around. He runs on all fours and hangs from a ledge like a kid left alone near an open window. Paying so much attention to these little things wasn't necessary in terms of gameplay, but it does so much in giving each of these ninjas personality. You officially only learn about them through these adorable little cinematics you can access from the menu, but just how differently they all look and play tells you so much more about them without explicitly telling you anything. This is good character design. Editor note 2. The more I pay attention to these things, the more I notice them everywhere throughout this game. Like, I just noticed that the Chonker Ninja has a sort of heavy breathing sound when he runs. It's so subtle, but it's there to really hammer in the point that he's a fat piece of shit. I fucking adore this width aspect of games, and I feel like studios experiment way less with it nowadays. Immersive sims like Vampire the Masquerade I mentioned earlier, Deus Ex or Thief are still amazing games a whole eternity later precisely because of this variety they offer, even if everything else about them is outdated. Yet still, for some reason, this width element is so often neglected in game development. So am I saying Mini Ninjas is a timeless classic that you should go play now? I'm not sure if I'm being honest. I went into this thinking, no way, this is just a game that I enjoy because I grew up with it. But every time I walked into a new area and the game showed a new piece of its personality to me, I kind of thought, this is holding up pretty good so far. So for someone new getting into this for the first time, I don't know. Maybe it's fun, maybe it's boring, no idea, honestly. If you do want to try it, I'll leave a link below for a community fix for a frame freezing issue you need to apply for it to run smoothly. As I said in the beginning, I'll be changing my name and all that stuff soon. I felt like the channel was due for a refresh, and I also really like wasting my time on shit like that. I care a lot about like branding and aesthetics and stuff that's not really that important, but I'm over no cap gaming. You can formally pay your respects in the comments, but that'll be gone soon. I was never really a fan of the name. I came up with it in like 10 seconds. I don't even remember coming up with the name because I didn't really think the channel would go anywhere. But it also kind of boxes me in. There's more stuff than games that I want to talk about. And Chrome Rot, I don't know, just sounds cool. I'm also working on version 1 of kind of like a merch shop. That is also a thing that I really enjoy wasting time on. I love clothing and all that, even though I'm not sure if a single person would want to buy my shit. But if you do, look forward to that. It's coming soon. I know I've been horrible with uploading this year. There's been a lot going on, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm probably more fired up to make content now than I've ever been. Hopefully, if the world doesn't fuck me over, this will mean a steady increase in upload frequency, because I'm feeling much better than I have been for a majority of this god-awful year. One thing I feel like I'm not really getting from the channel that was a big part of why I even wanted a channel is to just talk about random shit with you guys. I will probably do an occasional Twitch stream here and there. I know I got on Twitch right as it started burning, but I kind of enjoy having my newbie cringe streamer phase in front of just a handful of people. Anyways, big kisses to my lovely patrons as always, and many thanks for watching.